Have you ever wondered if there's a difference between loneliness and solitude? This question is not as simple as it may seem at first glance. Let's dive into it. Loneliness and solitude, two words often used interchangeably, yet they represent two vastly different conditions. Loneliness, it's that gnawing feeling of emptiness, a void that seems to expand with each passing moment. It's a state of longing, yearning for connection, for interaction, for the comforting presence of another. Loneliness is an unwelcome guest, creeping in uninvited, casting a shadow over your heart, and often leading to a dangerous path of self-delusion. It's easy to convince ourselves that we're on the right path when we're lonely, that we're simply misunderstood or unappreciated. But these thoughts, born out of loneliness, are often just mirages, illusions that keep us from facing the reality. Now let's turn our attention to solitude. Solitude, unlike its gloomy cousin loneliness, is a state of peaceful aloneness. It's a conscious choice to disconnect, to retreat within oneself, and to find comfort in one's own company. Solitude is not the absence of others, but the presence of oneself. It's a sanctuary where you can listen to the whispers of your soul, undisturbed by the clamor of the outside world. Solitude allows us to reflect, to ponder, to grow. It brings clarity, illuminates the path ahead, and encourages introspection. It's in solitude that we often find answers to questions we didn't even know we had. It's a state of being alone without feeling lonely. However, as enriching as solitude can be, it's important to remember that we are social beings. We need connections, interactions, a sense of belonging. We need mirrors, not the glass ones that merely reflect our physical selves, but mirrors in the form of other people's hearts, where we can truly see ourselves, our essence, our soul, and the divine within us. But eventually, we all need a mirror, another person's heart, where we can truly see ourselves and the divine within us. This brings us to the concept of Rule 6, a profound idea from the 40 Rules of Love by Elif Shafak. This rule, nestled within the pages of Shafak's captivating narrative, serves as a beacon of wisdom in an ocean of thought-provoking ideologies and spiritual teachings. The book itself paints a vibrant tapestry of love, mysticism, and human connection, weaving together the stories of a modern American housewife and the 13th century poet Rumi. But today we focus on one particular thread of this intricate narrative fabric, Rule 6. Rule 6 states, loneliness and solitude are two different things. When you are lonely, it is easy to delude yourself into believing that you are on the right path. Isolation is better for us, as it means being alone without feeling lonely. But eventually, it is best to find a person who will be your mirror. Remember, only in another person's heart can you truly see yourself and the presence of God within you. This rule, simple in words but profound in meaning, asks us to reflect on our own journey through life. It nudges us to distinguish solitude from loneliness, to understand the value of isolation, and to appreciate the deep connection we find when we see ourselves reflected in another's heart. In the context of the book, Rule 6 serves as a turning point, a moment of clarity in the whirlwind of emotions and experiences that the characters navigate. It's a universal message, one that resonates with readers from all walks of life, as we all grapple with the complexities of human connection and self-discovery. Applying Rule 6 to our daily lives is about being self-aware and emotionally intelligent. It's about recognizing our need for solitude, respecting our moments of loneliness, and cherishing the connections that allow us to see ourselves and the divine within us more clearly. This rule, like a mirror held up to our hearts, reflects the truths we often overlook, the small yet significant revelations about ourselves and our relationships. It's about understanding that we are not alone in our journey, that we are part of a larger interconnected tapestry of human experience. Rule 6 tells us that only in another person's heart can we truly see ourselves and the divine within us. So, how can we apply Rule 6 in our lives? Rule 6 illuminates the importance of relationships, empathy, and understanding in our quest to know our true selves. It nudges us to seek deep, meaningful connections with others. But how do we put this into practice? Let's start with relationships. We often perceive them as mere interactions with other people. However, Rule 6 encourages us to see them as mirrors reflecting our own image. Every person we encounter, whether they're a loved one or a stranger, holds a piece of us within them. They reflect our virtues and flaws, our strengths and weaknesses. By engaging with them, we get a chance to see ourselves from a different perspective. But to see our reflection clearly, we must approach relationships with empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. It's about putting ourselves in their shoes, feeling their joy, their pain, their hopes, and their fears. When we empathize with someone, we not only understand them better, but we also gain a better understanding of ourselves. It's through their emotions that we discover our own. So how do we cultivate empathy? It starts with active listening. When we listen to understand rather than to respond, we open ourselves to the other person's experience. We give ourselves the chance to see the world through their eyes, and in doing so, we discover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. Understanding, on the other hand, is the culmination of a genuine relationship and empathy. It's when we accept the other person for who they are with all their imperfections. But more importantly, it's when we accept our reflection in them. We accept that, like them, we too are imperfect. And it's in this acceptance that we find our true selves. But Rule 6 doesn't stop at self-discovery. It encourages us to seek the divine in our relationships. It tells us that the divine resides not in isolation but in connection. It resides in the love we share, in the empathy we show, and in the understanding we cultivate. When we see ourselves in the mirror of another person's heart, we don't just see our human form, we see our divine essence. So to apply Rule 6 in our lives, we must forge meaningful relationships. We must empathize with others and strive to understand them. And most importantly, we must learn to see the divine in our connections. For it's through these connections that we come to know ourselves and the divine within us. Through the mirror of another person's heart, we can understand ourselves and the divine better. What happens when we start living by Rule 6? This question invites us to delve into a world of introspection, empathy, and profound connections. Imagine a world where you see yourself not just through your own eyes but through the heart of another. This is the essence of Rule 6. It encourages us to find our mirror in another person, to truly understand ourselves and realize our divine potential. When we start living by this rule, the transformation is profound. The first change is self-awareness. We begin to see ourselves more clearly, understanding our strengths and weaknesses, our passions and fears. This clarity brings about a sense of peace and acceptance as we start to appreciate ourselves for who we truly are. We no longer judge ourselves harshly, but rather understand that we are all works in progress, each with our unique journey and purpose. Next, we cultivate empathy. By seeing ourselves in another person, we naturally develop a deeper understanding of their feelings and experiences. We become more sensitive to their joys and pains, their dreams and disappointments. This empathy bridges the gap between us, fostering genuine connections and enhancing our ability to communicate and relate to others. Finally, our relationships deepen. As we become more self-aware and empathetic, our relationships become more meaningful. We are able to connect on a deeper level, sharing our thoughts and feelings more openly and honestly. We start to appreciate the beauty and complexity of the human experience, and this appreciation enriches our relationships, making them more fulfilling. Yet the most profound impact of Rule 6 is perhaps spiritual. By seeing the presence of God within ourselves and others, we feel more connected to the divine, experiencing a sense of peace, love, and unity that transcends our physical existence. Embracing Rule 6 can lead us to a more fulfilling and self-aware life. It is a journey of introspection, empathy, and profound connections that can transform our understanding of ourselves and our relationships with others. It's not just about self-improvement, but about becoming more human, more compassionate, and more connected to the divine. To sum it up, we've journeyed through the nuanced landscape of loneliness and solitude. We've learned that solitude, unlike loneliness, is a state of fruitful isolation that allows us to grow without the burden of feeling alone. We've delved into the concept of Rule 6, a profound insight from Elif Shafak's 40 Rules of Love, and explored how it can shape our understanding of self and spirituality. This rule encourages us to find our mirror in another person, to truly see ourselves and the divine within us. We've also discussed its impact, how it can transform our relationships, and in turn, our lives. It's a reminder that we are not alone in our journey, that our connections with others can be a pathway to deeper self-understanding and spiritual growth. Remember, only in another person's heart can you truly see yourself and the presence of God within you. Thank you for joining us today.